Good morning and welcome to the NBA Daily. Coming up, Wes Goldberg from RealGM Radio's here. We're going to talk about the teams that need to avoid the play-in the most out west and his opinion on Defensive Player of the Year and Most Improved. Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Wes. Welcome to the show. Wes Goldberg, if you guys don't know, he is the host of RealGM Radio and also Locked On Heat. So he's one of my Miami Heat guys when I need some info. But we're talking big picture NBA stuff. National championship game was last night. What a game.
What a game. That's right. Yeah. Excited to see how it turns out.
Yeah. We're recording this before the game. Full disclosure. But Wes, looking at the playoff race out west, and it is objectively a mess right now. Basically, the way the play-in is set up, with the 7 and 8 seeds right now, we have a possibility of the Lakers, the Nuggets, the Clippers, the Warriors, the Wolves, or the Grizzlies being the 7 or 8 seed right now as of this recording. This is one of the more chaotic playoff races since the introduction of the play-in. How do you feel about the play-in and its effect on the playoffs? Like, do you have an opinion on that?
So when it first was introduced, I was anti-play-in because I mostly don't like new things and things that generally add more stuff to an already packed NBA schedule. And then I really liked the play-in because it ended up being really exciting. And then I'm looking at the Eastern Conference this year. I'm like, we sure we need the play-in here? We kind of know the teams that should be in the playoffs. But in this case, this is pretty interesting. My only fix to the play-in would be like, do we really need the 9-10 teams in here? Maybe just one game for the 7-8 seeds to figure it out, battle it out, and then go that way. But in general, yeah, I think the play-in is fine. It works. And we're in for a really exciting finish here because like you said, this is madness. I don't remember the last time the standings were just like this bananas with 4 or 5 games left in the season. And it's every single day it's standings watching in the Western Conference now.
Right. And so right now the Rockets look like the worst they can do is the 3 seed. They had a big win over the Warriors, and that's going to actually keep the Warriors from having a chance to make it all the way to the 2 seed, which they still had a chance for had they have beaten the Rockets in the game on Sunday. But after that, I mean, it's kind of chaotic. You've got the Lakers who had the huge win over Oklahoma City. They're, of course, going to play Oklahoma City again tonight, which could be big for them because they're still, trying to fight for that 3 seed and to keep the Nuggets back. The Nuggets have lost 4 straight as we're recording. The Clippers right behind them have won 4 straight. And obviously the Warriors have just been a different team since they got Jimmy Butler. Now 21-3 with him on the team. Minnesota has played around with this play-in range pretty much all season. It seems like they'll win 3 or 4 games, then they'll struggle for 3 or 4 games. And then the Grizzlies have just fallen off a cliff, obviously, most recently changing head coaches. In that group, Wes, like what team just pops out to you first as a team that definitely they need to avoid the play-in, whether it's a rest that they need or just you worry about them in a single elimination situation?
Well, my first thought is Warriors-Lakers just because of their aging stars. Don't play as many games, especially when you think about the Warriors. They've got Jimmy Butler. Jimmy Butler got injured in the play-in tournament last year when he was playing for the Miami Heat and then wasn't available for them in the first round against Boston. So age, whatever. But then I'm like, well, anybody can get injured. It's, stuff happens all the time. I'm looking at the Clippers, Dave. I'm really looking at the Clippers here. They have not beaten the Thunder or the Rockets this season. So if they're in the play-in and they make it out of the play-in, well, they're going to have to probably play one of the Rockets or the Thunder in that first round. And like I said, they haven't beaten those guys yet. Now they do play Houston on Wednesday night. Maybe that's something that could be informational for us, but they're a team that actually has some pretty good matchup stuff, depending on where they might end up in the bracket. Like they have beaten Golden State, right? They match up really well with Denver. So if they end up in a first round series against those teams, they probably feel a lot better about their chances against them than they would against a couple of teams that they have yet to beat all season long. So I look at the Clippers as the team that really needs to avoid the play-in, probably more than any of these other teams. Not to say the regular season is everything, but yeah, those matchups are tough for them. Right.
Yeah, I mean, it is good, though, that they're playing some of their best basketball right now. I think they're likely to avoid it. We had Kawhi Leonard. He was the Western Conference Player of the Month last month. I mean, they're kind of peaking at the right time. It seems like the chemistry is great for them. So I expect them to avoid it. what about like, how do you feel about the Grizzlies winning a game? I see. To me, I look at them. I've seen them as a first round out all year. I thought that they were kind of a paper regular season team, and I think that the team probably agreed with me. I don't know, man. One game, it feels like, yeah, they could win. Like Ja could go off, but with the way that defense is just falling off a cliff, I don't know. I think that if they're not, the 6th seed or above, it's just they're going on vacation.
Yeah, that's a team that feels like they might not even make it out of the play-in. I just saw Ja Morant in Miami hit a game winner to win the game for the Grizzlies the other night, so I'm not going to doubt Ja Morant. And we've seen what he could do in the playoffs before. I mean, that guy is a playoff gamer. We don't really talk about him in that sort of tier of player, but he's been basically his whole career. Jaren Jackson Jr. has been phenomenal this year, especially like we know what he does defensively. Offensively, he's taken a leap on that end. I always think that we've thought of Memphis as a deep team, and then you kind of look at the roster this year and you're like, how deep is this team? Like they're relying on 2 rookies in that starting lineup. There's guys that I like coming off the bench, but this team is really reliant on Desmond Bane making threes. They're a team that if just one thing kind of goes wrong in the game, especially with the new coaching there, it feels like it can kind of go sideways for them early in the game. So yeah, it feels like Memphis is one of these teams that could lose a game that maybe you don't even expect them to lose in the play-in tournament.
What about Denver? I mentioned they're on the losing streak right now. Michael Malone, I mean, the entire team seems pretty dejected. Obviously, they're dealing with some health issues, Jamal Murray. Do you trust them to get themselves out of the play-in if they're in that 7-8 game?
I think I do, just because Jokic, at the risk of oversimplifying stuff, but he's just obviously a guy who could take over any game and diagnose that matchup and do what we've seen him go off for 61 points when they've needed him to do it. So if it's a do or die situation, I just trust him to do that. But yeah, avoiding the play-in for them too would be really important. Making it out of the play-in. I mean, this is just a team that's been dealing with injuries all year. We know the Jamal Murray thing, like you already mentioned. Aaron Gordon has been in and out of the lineup with injuries all year. It seems like that still might be affecting him a little bit here. And then even with Jokic, the guy's playing so many minutes this year. If you could avoid the play-in and just save him a week, doesn't that feel like of all the players in the playoffs, Jokic might be the guy that needs a week off the most, considering what this season has been for this guy? So
right.
Give him the week off. Like if you're Denver, they're also a team that kind of uses momentum a lot, which is kind of weird for like a veteran team. But when they are able to string together a couple of wins, that usually leads to another couple of wins for them. So if they're playing and peaking at the right time, even though they've lost a few games in a row here, if they can kind of close out this last week strong, that probably sets up well for them. Yeah.
And I mean, I think when you've got a guy like MPJ that they need to have, in one game, he has to have a good game. And he has been incredibly inconsistent the last couple months. Yeah. I would be very concerned. Again, the Jamal Murray injury, we've highlighted just them trying to close games with Russell Westbrook can sometimes be a disaster. So you get into a situation like that, you just don't have any wiggle room. Where would you? So are you saying Clippers? That's it. Clippers have to avoid the play-in. That's your bet right there.
That's kind of where I'm at. Just because even if they do make it out of the play-in, it just feels like they would be dead in the water in a first round. It's just a tough matchup for them, and they've proven that in the regular season. But then on the flip side, if they can get into that 4 or 5 range, well, now all of a sudden you're looking at a matchup that could be beneficial for them. And now maybe we're talking about a team that could make it out of the first round of the Western Conference. And then once you're there and you see how the bracket works, who knows? Maybe that's a team that could make it all the way to the conference finals. And Kawhi Leonard's been playing like that guy. James Harden, we know his playoff warts, but he's not that guy anymore for this team as long as Kawhi is healthy. And then obviously you save a week and you risk or you mitigate the risk of Kawhi aggravating something in another week there too. So yeah, my answer is the Clippers, probably just because it feels like it could either be over before it even begins, or this is a team that we could be looking in a month from now or a couple months from now and be like, wow, that team made a run to the Western Conference Finals that we didn't expect.
Yeah, the seeding may affect them more than any other team. I like that take quite a bit. I think that they can win one game because they have Kawhi, but I do think if they can get to that 4 or 5 seed or 4 seed, that it is a hugely beneficial for them to get through to the finals. Stick around, guys. After the break, we're going to talk about Defensive Player of the Year and Most Improved, and I believe we're going to talk about another Clipper because Ivica Zubac has been pretty good. As it is probably been very apparent. It is award season in the NBA ecosphere. Draymond Green has gone on a single man self-campaign for Defensive Player of the Year, and he has somehow swung the betting odds way in his favor. Wes, has he swung you over into his camp? Are you pro Draymond for Defensive Player of the Year this year?
I'm not. And that's not even a thing against Draymond. I think he's been sensational, and he's had really big games and really big moments on like a national stage, right? What he did against Giannis a couple of weeks ago was just classic Draymond Green defensive masterclass. He had those stops against the Lakers a couple nights ago that were huge, obviously, down the stretch. And he's awesome. Like, Draymond Green's awesome. And the fact that he only has one Defensive Player of the Year award for his career, it's kind of a crime. So if he were to get it again this year, I wouldn't be upset about it. But I also don't think that he was wire to wire to the best defender in the league this season, despite, everything that he's been saying and the campaign that he's had the best campaign out of anybody in terms of just being out there.
I agree with that. Yeah.
But I don't think he's been the best defender wire to wire.
So who's it been for you then? I mean, look, Victor Wembanyama had the award locked up. Like, we know that. Just the way that he has completely changed the geometry of the court for opposing teams. We know that. Jaren Jackson, I thought, was the front runner to take a spot. Obviously, the big injury took him out. Evan Mobley sort of petered out as far as being the guy who was right behind Jaren Jackson. It seems like his case kind of has gone up in smoke. Who's your guy?
So I'm between two guys, but before I tell you who it is, can we talk a little bit about Amen Thompson making a late push for this thing?
Because I would love to talk about it. Yeah, let's do it.
What he did against Steph Curry and the Warriors on Sunday night, it has me at least rethinking my whole Defensive Player of the Year thing. And then I look at the different sports books this morning, Dave, and like, he's not even listed on these things in terms of odds. And I'm like, look, I don't know if he would be my favorite. He's probably not right now, but he would be on my ballot. Like, and to not even have him mentioned in this conversation. I mean, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander has better odds than Amen Thompson does. That seems weird. So he's one of those guys who, when I think about Defensive Player of the Year, not only am I looking at who's getting stops and who's important to their defense, but who's making those game-changing defensive plays, who's swinging the momentum and changing the entire tenor of the whole matchup just with what they do on the defensive end. And I don't know that is there anybody better than Amen Thompson on that end when he's sort of just totally dialed in and engaged in terms of just making those huge kind of game swinging type of plays on the defensive end? I think he at least has to be in the conversation.
Well, oh no, absolutely. I think that's actually the case that Draymond is so able to make. I mean, when you see Draymond, I mean, he's out there doing the interviews and then he goes and makes a game-winning play, that's on national television. I do think that stuff matters. And the men's ability to guard the best guy on the other team, Draymond doesn't even have to do that now, right? Like, there's someone else that goes and does that. He's in that helper role and he's, playing free safety and he's quarterbacking the defense and all these other things. But there is something to, it's hard to reward, it seems, in the NBA, that sort of defender. S and I have talked about this quite a bit. Baraheni, obviously, for the people listening, has this idea that maybe we needed, the Defensive Player of the Year award needs to be like a wing award and a big award or some kind of a role-based award or something like that, because it is hard to quantify what Amen Thompson does every night. But as you said, I just don't think he's done quite enough to be, at that level, but certainly should be on the odds somewhere.
Yeah, it's just weird that we're not even having him in the conversation. I mean, he guarded Steph on Sunday night. He guards Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in Houston's win over Oklahoma City. And then a couple weeks ago, he's guarding Luka and holds him to 1 for 6 shooting, right? It's just, there are moments for him, but to your point, it's very similar to the Draymond Green case a little bit. I just wanted to throw him in there. But to answer your question, I'm between Lou Dort and Evan Mobley at this point. And now you kind of get back to that classic, well, am I going to go to the perimeter guy or am I going to go with the big? And I will make the case for Lou Dort, because the one thing I hear, Evan Mobley, everybody, like, he's awesome. Cleveland's defense has been really good. But with Lou Dort, I keep hearing this pushback of, well, he's surrounded with a lot of really good defenders in Oklahoma City. And that's true, like, no doubt about it. I kind of think the whole thing falls apart without Lou Dort a little bit. Like, it's not to say that they would be a bad defense, but they wouldn't be elite, like just this absolute razor of a defense that just is carrying them to wins, to almost 70 wins in a season, they'd probably be still top 10, but I don't think they would be this dominant on this end if not for Lu Dort. He's always the guy taking the most difficult assignment. He's kind of the anchor of that defense, and everybody else kind of does stuff around him, but every single night he's bringing it. And I just think about two things. Who's had the best wire-to-wire defensive season? I think Lu Dort started the year just already looking like an all-defensive guy, and he's finished the year looking at it. He's not had any lulls or any dips. I can't think of a time where I watched the Thunder game and I was like, not an awesome game for Dort defensively on this end, right? The guy just doesn't screw up. He's awesome and he's super important. And he's also really important to all the stuff they do with the deflections and all that kind of stuff. Like, he's so integral into everything that Mark Daigneault is doing there. And then the other thing is, when you talk to players around the league, you ask them, who's the one guy you don't want defending you? They all say Lu Dort. They all say Lu Dort.
Well, the numbers
Nobody wants to play
up.
this guy.
The numbers back it up. Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I mean, when you look at what the opposing Stars, the numbers they put up against the Thunder, there is a Dort depression in those numbers. Definitely the numbers are in the red, let's say, for opposing Star players. Most improved. Now, this is a somewhat controversial award because it winds up that it's going to go to somebody like Cade Cunningham. But this isn't to say that Cade Cunningham isn't a much better player right now than he was this time a year ago, because I happen to think that he has just taken a massive leap this season in a lot of ways, not just winning games, but also the way that he's winning games and finishing games. But he is like the front runner for this award. And to me, that it kind of breaks the spirit of what most improved should be about. I think that when you're that highly touted as a prospect, man, isn't this sort of the expectation?
It is. And there should be a rule. I don't know what it is. I'm usually anti-rules, but can we stop voting these guys
right
that are top 5 picks? Like, oh, wow, it's crazy that this guy got good. Right. I've seen it labeled as like the MVP junior award. It shouldn't be that. Right. And as soon as John Morant mailed his most improved award to Desmond Bane, we should have realized in that moment, oh, we're doing this all wrong. So I don't even ever really consider a top 10 pick unless it's like a weird case where the guy never looked like a top 10 pick and then all of a sudden did. But if you're one of the top players in the draft, the whole thing was that you're supposed to get better and be good. So I don't think John Morant should have ever won it, and I certainly don't think Cade should win it. And it's nothing to do with Cade and Evan Mobley, like another guy who would have a case. But I'm like, dude, these guys are good. They're supposed to be good. I'm not voting for them. It kind of goes against the spirit of the award.
So where's the bar set for you? I mean, you don't necessarily have to make a choice here, but like, what's your field? Like when you're saying, here's my, such and such is in the conversation, who are your guys? Like, you got a handful?
I do. I think about like a guy like Ivica Zubac, who it's been steady improvement his entire career, but has legitimately been one of the best 5 centers in the league this year. I mean, he's an elite center. I think he's been awesome. I think Austin Reeves has also taken a leap. Yeah. I think you can't ignore that. Christian Brown in Denver, Dyson Daniels with what he's doing in Atlanta, even though that you could argue, is that an opportunity thing or is that really an improvement? I can go either way on that. Ty Jerome, Peyton Pritchard. I mean, there's such a bunch of Aaron Wiggins, like these guys off the bench that are just doing really important stuff for really good teams. The guy that I go back to though, and this might be my Miami homerism talking here, Dave, but I can't help but think that Tyler Herro deserves real recognition for this award. This is a guy who, when I think about most improved, right? Like we already discussed the top 5 guys that are supposed to be good. I also want to see a guy who legitimately improved in different parts of his game, certain skills, but also maybe change the way that he plays. I think that's maybe the hardest improvement to do, especially if you're somebody like Tyler Herro, who 6 years into his career has a 6 Man of the Year award, has been a part of 2 finals teams, has been a 20-point per game scorer twice going into this year, made a $100 million contract, earned a $100 million contract. Guys in that position don't usually say, you know what, I'm going to change everything about what I'm doing. I'm going to just completely change it all. And he went into the lab this offseason and said everything that he had been doing to this point wasn't good enough anymore. And he looked at his shot chart and he looked at all the things that he was trying to work on and his skill development and his physical development. And he scratched all of it and he said, I'm going to do it all different. And he looked at Steph Curry's shot chart and he's like, I want to get as close to that as possible. And then he did. Like all the mid-range jumpers that he would dribble the air out of the ball and dribble into, those are gone. He started taking way more threes. The off-ball movement has been huge. Physically, he's much more improved. It's the first time he's ever played 70 games in a season this year since his rookie year. I mean, he's gotten more durable. Like, you think about all the things that he could have improved upon and that the Heat were asking him to improve upon, and he just checked every single box. And then he became a first-time All-Star. So he was rewarded with it with the individual accolades as well. I think it's so hard for a player, again, who is a first-round pick, made the money, did all that stuff, to just walk into year 6 and be like, it's not good enough. I'm going to change all of it. I'm going to change my mindset. I think that's so hard and underappreciated that when I look at most improved, I don't know that anybody has improved from where they were to where they are now as much as Tyler Herro has.
I mean, I just like that it's, he's in year 6. This is the thing to me is I would rather look at guys in that 5 to 7, 8 year range when we're talking about most improved. Guys that, have had a chance to be maybe multiple types of players in their career, like Tyler Herro, who now has had this evolution. I actually think that's a great call. And it's similar to the Austin Reeves thing where it's like, well, clearly there's been a leap, except Tyler Herro went to being the guy, not the best third option in the league, which, Austin Reeves, I think, has become. Tyler Herro has become the guy for a team. And that is a degree of difficulty is much higher. Yeah, I like that. So who would your runner up be?
Yeah, I might go Zubac here. And that I don't have a great reason other than he's been awesome. And I love watching that guy play. And I'm going to put him on every single ballot. He'll be on my defensive player of the year ballot. I love the season that he's been putting together. So off the top of my head, I go Zubac.
He's also high up there on the unexpected voice list too. Like, it's like, oh, that's what you sound like. Yes. Very funny. Wes Goldberg. That's what he sounds like. You guys can hear him over in RealGM Radio, Locked On Heat. He's very good at this. Hopefully comes back during the playoffs. Appreciate you hanging out with me. That's going to do it for the show, folks. Thank you guys for listening. For Wes, I'm Dave DuFour, and this has been the NBA Daily. Thanks for waking up with us.